What's up, everyone? The original Alex here, back at it again with another niche internet topic. One could even call me a nitwit for how much keen intelligence I have of obscure media. I've talked about a lot of things on this channel: Plants vs. Zombies, Cookie Run, Parappa, all sorts of topics that, while known, have generally smaller followings. But of all the topics on my channel, none are as niche as my singing monsters. And I think it's about time to give this topic a full-fledged video. So, what is My Singing Monsters? To put it simply, My Singing Monsters is a game about breeding monsters and listening to them sing. As of recording this, there are 21 islands in My Singing Monsters, and 6 islands in My Singing Monsters Dawn of Fire, which is a prequel to the first game. That equates to 27 unique songs. And seeing as the last of the first game's 21 islands, Mythical Island, was recently completed, I thought it'd be fun to go over and rank all 27 songs in the My Singing Monsters series. Of course, this ranking is entirely my opinion. And I'm gonna put any nostalgia and community takes aside to rank each song to my own liking. So, let's start with the island that started it all. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but Plant Island may be the hardest island to rank, because out of every island in this game, none have come as far as it. For those of you who have never played My Singing Monsters before, it might interest you to learn that even when an island is completed, new monsters can still be added to them in the future. Such is the case with Plant Island, which probably has the most unique additions out of every island in the game. But how do I feel about Plant Island? Well, it's okay. I know I said I'd put any nostalgia aside, but I did prefer it when it was much smaller, because some of the strongest monsters, Bogart, Octopus, Ghast, and Sugarbush, were more prominent. Don't get me wrong, there are some new additions that I enjoy, specifically Rare Wobox, Gajoob, and Epic Wobox, but apart from them, there's not much of a reason to listen to Plant Island over a bunch of other islands. There are some other problems I have with this song. The Colossal is really loud, I'm not a fan of the dipsters here. While the concept for the Wordos is cute, I don't like the execution, and even though this is the Wobox at their second best, it stands out the more and more I listen to Plant Island. I don't know, once you progress past Punkleton, Plant Island starts to move the spotlight. So I think I'm only going to put it in C tier. But don't fret, things can only get better from here. I don't know how controversial this is, but I've always been a firm believer that Cold Island was better than Plant Island. However, this island shares a few of the problems that Plant Island has. Specifically, the Wobox doesn't fit, and the Wordos aren't great. Listen, I'm happy that this island got more attention recently, but these lyrics are not scary or deep, and I don't know why people were making them out to be. On the other hand, the Colossal is a lot more subtle, and the dipsters are bearable. But what this island has over Plant Island are its standouts. Bogart, Quibble, Deej, Rare Wobox, and Strombonin sound great here. The Thumpies have also never been this loud, and I'm all for it. Yeah, the natural monsters from Plant Island and Epic Wobox's second track are a bit weaker here, but I don't mind that because they don't carry the melody as hard as the standouts do. All in all, Cold Island is solid, but nowhere near perfect. Seeing as this is an ordered tier list, I'll put it in C tier, but above Plant Island. Air Island is a big step up from Plant and Cold Island. I used to think this was one of the weaker islands, but the more it got updated, the better it got. And I really do mean that. Let's start with the weaknesses. I guess Pom Pom's voice is kind of annoying.
No!
I wish Yostrich's track didn't loop the second time. Yeah, that's all I got. Where to begin with this island? Because of its unique mechanical theme, it's one of the few islands where every Wobox fits. I know people clown on this island's Epic Wobox for playing significantly less than every other one, but it sounds fine. The Colossal also sounds fine, doing its usual build-up before the song's final verses. And oh my god, this song's final verse. They actually did it. They made good sounding wordos. The Dipsters also complement their verses way better than they have thus far. I don't know, man, every monster sounds good. T-Rox, Quibble, Maw, Rare Wobox, Riff, Yostrich, even Scups. I really want to limit how many monsters I consider standouts, but there's still more contenders. I really enjoy Air Island. I'm debating between B and A, as I'd hope to rank one natural island above the rest. But for now, it's going in B. Similar to Cold Island, Water Island is one of those islands where every new addition only ups the energy of the song. That's not to say that these additions are bad, but Water Island is generally a much calmer island, and most of these new additions play into the beat of the song. But that's the crazy part. The higher energy works just as well as the original melody. This is another island where everyone works. The natural monsters sound good, the ethereal monster sounds heavenly, the Dipsters sound fine, and the Wordos and Woboxes complement the song pretty well. Despite my problems with the Wordos, this is them at their second best. I'm alright now. Cool, clear like water. I'll make it somehow. I'll go flow like water. And whoever took the risk in adding these loud motherfuckers to the island, I gotta hand it to you. The Wobox plays at a good time, Rare Wobox sounds as good as always, and Epic Wobox. Next to the Plant Island Epic Wobox, this Wobox adds the most to their respective island. What more can I say? Everyone works well. Yes, even Scups. I am sick and tired of people disrespecting the subtle filler noises that they add. B tier. Let me tell you, Earth Island was the island back in the day. Being the last of the natural islands, Earth Island had a lot to live up for. And I can confidently say that even after all these years, it is definitely held up. Its song has such a different vibe in comparison to the islands thus far. And for having such a strong foundation, each new addition continued to improve the song. The Woboxes sound great, the Dipsters sound great, if not a bit much sometimes. And this island's mythical monster is the scrunkliest Scrumbo to Scrimble out of Scrimsville. Now, I do have my gripes with Earth Island. I kinda hate the Wordos on this island, and although I can recognize that they're better here than on Cold Island, they're still not good. The Colossal is also really loud and kind of unnecessary, and... what the fuck did you do to their volume, man? As with any other island, Earth Island isn't perfect. But take away the Wordos, and you've got a really good song with a cool theme and a strong selection of monsters. A tier, the best of the natural islands. Yeah, I'm doing something different with this tier list, because we're ranking these islands in release order. After all, I thought it'd be fun to hear the evolution of this game's music. Plus, jumping from Earth Island to Fire Haven didn't feel right to me. So, let's go over the island released after Earth Island, Ethereal Island. I have a complicated history with Ethereal Island. When I first got into the game pre-Tribal Island, Ethereal Island was my favorite island in the game. But I eventually started to forget about Ethereal Island, especially because for the longest time, the Wobox and the Dipsters were the island's most recent additions. And I can't lie in saying that they improved the song because, well, it wasn't until the end of 2022 when Rare Wobox was added to Ethereal. which was the newest addition in 4 years. I was like, alright, that's not bad. And then Monculus got added. Suddenly, Ethereal Island piqued my interest. I decided to rearrange Ethereal Island to my own liking after a successful community post, and here we are now. What else could I say about Ethereal Island? I love the vibe, I love the sound, I love the seasonal. Wallbox is the only thing that doesn't really work here, but aside from that, I have no complaints. A well-deserved A tier. This is gonna be a weird start, but promise you'll stick with me. Ready? Let's go. This is Christian Bush. Bush became a fan of My Singing Monsters through his 11-year-old son. He then took to Twitter to publicly endorse the game, which was followed with David Kerr, the head director of My Singing Monsters, offering Bush to guest star as a monster. Thus, the Sugar Bush was born. Additionally, Sugar Bush would receive its own island, fittingly titled Sugar Bush Island. And the rest was history. Not only is Sugar Bush the first monster to be based on a real person, but its island is the second island to be based on an existing song. You heard that right. This is a My Singing Monsters remix of a song titled Lover Money. And I can confidently say that this is one of the only country songs that I could stand listening to. But what's the island like? Well, if I could stand the song that it's based on, then I can stand this island too. I enjoy how Sugarvox speaks in gibberish, and how despite not needing these monsters to remix the original song, they complement the island well. I don't know, this island is so one of a kind, and I mean, I like it, so B tier? I remember the day Tribal Island was announced like it was yesterday. I can't say that I knew what was going on, but the introduction of the fire element monster Kana changed the course of the series as we knew it. Unfortunately, this island is kind of a pain in the ass to complete if you don't have 29 friends to join your tribe. But is the hassle worth it? Not really. But is the song good? Yeah, it's not bad.
Come on, let's go.
Like with Air Island, every monster sounds good. In fact, I'd argue that some of the game's most forgettable monsters are at their best on Tribal Island. Yeah, monsters like Riff and Chorister couldn't light a candle to their debut tracks, but they still sound good. And finally, this is the first time in the My Singing Monsters series that a monster has said a sentence in English. And no, I'm not counting
Yippee-yay!
or
Yeah,
as a sentence. I think the hype around Tribal Island is one of those you had to be there moments, because very seldom do I see fans rank this island above C tier. I guess I can't blame them, seeing as this island is a hassle to complete and the fact that it hasn't been updated since 2015. But damn it, this is a good song, with a strong beginning, middle, and end. High B tier. Wait a minute, this was released in 2016? You're gonna be hard-pressed to find anyone that hates this island. Wobblen Island is an island that, in theory, should not work. Every monster sounds like they come from a completely different island, and the only consistency they have is that they're from the same island. But when you put them all together, they create a sound unlike any other sound in the game. It's loud, it's contrasting, it's noisy, and it works. You can argue that there are some unnecessary monsters, Zuker, Scargo, and Mulch to name a few, but these monsters began to grow on me when I rearranged the island myself, and now I can't hear the island without them anymore. Mind you, this is an island with at least 5 standouts, and that's about a fourth of the island's total monsters. Safe to say, Wobblen Island is worth completing, and I don't think I can place it anywhere below A tier. Celestial Island is another island I couldn't believe came out as early as it did, especially when it's still considered a late game island today. Functionally, it's a lot like Wublin Island, where you have to zap eggs to wake up monsters, only with stricter time periods and steeper egg requirements. Now, this might be a hot take, but I do not care for Celestial Island.
What?
And I know what you're thinking. Vamp, Galvana, Ludwig, Atmos. Fine monsters, do not care for the island. Unfortunately, most of these monsters just don't live up to their elder counterparts. Plixie, Galvana, Blossom, and especially Skaratar are extremely weak for what they're capable of. And the song as a whole isn't all that interesting. I really hope they do something good with the elders, because if I hear baby Skaratar's mid-track being played by this legend, I'm gonna lose my mind. Celestial Island is C tier as of this video's release. Song-wise, I don't get the hype around Firehaven. It's not a bad song, and it has a solid selection of monsters, but nothing about it keeps me from coming back to it. But now that this island's mythical monster Bazinga has finally arrived on Firehaven, I can't say that my opinion is any different. Does it sound good? Yeah, it does. But its inclusion doesn't make that much of a difference when it does so little for playing such a prominent instrument. There's also... Gobblegord. Listen, if Firehaven is one of your favorite islands, I can 100% understand why. Again, it's not bad, but it's personally not one of my favorites. B tier. Alright, I'm about to get controversial again. I like Fire Oasis more than Firehaven. Yes, I can admit its faults. It's a bit long, it's a bit repetitive, it has a weaker selection of fire monsters, and Gobblegord sucks. Okay, you guys can argue about that last one. However, I much prefer the vibe of Fire Oasis over Firehaven. I like the melody, I love how Woolabee sounds, I enjoy Fangler and Waddle's duet, and how the Dipsters complement their verse. I just like this island. I guess I have my complaints. I'm not the biggest fan of Boskus, Wink, or Gobblegord. Trouble's first track took some getting used to, and I wish Spirit sang more. But, with the exception of Gobblegord, none of these monsters ruin the island for me. At the end of the day, I'm glad that Firehaven and Fire Oasis offer two entirely different vibes, because as fun as trumpets and a fire beat are, an adventure in the Oasis makes for a good time too. A tier. Fire Frontier. Fuck. Psychic Island. I don't think this is an island that My Singing Monsters fans feel strongly about, and I can't say that I'm in the minority. In my opinion, Psychic Island is the weakest of the four magical islands. And yes, I'll get to that one later. Psychic Island is a very percussion-heavy island, but despite how good that percussion is, the vocalists are arguably at their weakest. Believe me, I love these monsters, but I can't believe that Toejammer and Potbelly are the standouts of this strong bunch. At the very least, Psychic Island has some incredible instrumentalists. Gloppic, Bookworm, Ruba, Yuggler. Oh, and do you know who makes up this island's entire beat? This thing. Don't believe me? Banger. Oh yeah, B tier. Do people really not like Fairy Island? I think this island sounds great. It's definitely on the sillier side. I mean, the song opens with bagpipes. But I think the fairy tale theme is fun, and that these monsters play to their quirkiness well. Platy, Drumpler, Ziggurat, Whimsies, Fiddle, and Clavinat sound fantastic. And the dipsters don't overstay their welcome like they do on the natural islands. You could make a case against Boskus and Squat, but I don't really think they make the song worse. This is just a feel-good island with a carefree song, and I think that has enough merit on its own. A tier. Bone Island is arguably the most popular of the magical islands, and there's not a lot I can say about it that hasn't already been said. It's a solid island where every monster has a part to play. Obviously, there are some stronger monsters than others. I couldn't imagine Bone Island without Toejammer, Stog, Wither, Udok, Thrumble, or Plinkaju. The dipsters are also pretty catchy, and Clavavera really comes into their own on Bone Island. However, I do feel that Bone Island is a bit overrated. Nothing can recreate the hype of hearing it for the first time, and as the other magical islands continue to get updated, Bone Island settled right in the middle for me. It's still an A tier, but there are better islands. Chat, how do we feel about Light Island? Light Island is one of the two most polarizing islands in the series. People either love it or hate it, and there's no middle ground. And I was actually lucky enough to have my post on Light Island blow up in the My Singing Monsters subreddit, so I was interested in what fans had to say about it. Starting with the criticism, people argue that Light Island is either too repetitive, too boring, too empty, too slow, or that Kena is way too overpowering. On the other hand, this post revealed a shocking amount of Light Island fans who appreciate the song's melody, serenity, complexity, beauty, or just prefer the song without the vocalists. However, I believe the reason why Light Island is so polarizing is because there's no other island like it in the entire series. Its song is reminiscent of a lullaby, which is calm, simple, and repetitive in nature. In turn, a lot of Light Island's monsters imitate each other's sounds, and repeat them as the song progresses. And by the time you reach the end of that progression, the song's already over. It's so different, and considering that Bone Island came before it, the bar couldn't have been raised any further. But how do I feel about it? I like it. Although I can understand where people are coming from, I find Light Island fine as is. I think the repetitiveness works well in the song's favor, and it personally doesn't annoy me. Does that make certain monsters a little more forgettable? Yeah. I will not remember Pluckbill by the end of this sentence, but these monsters still do their job for the song. However, the monsters that aren't forgettable are the furthest from it. Flores, Furcorn, Gob, and Fiddleman are transcendent here, and Light Island boasts an incredibly strong build-up through Sousa and Whizbang. I'm inclined to say that Light Island may have one of the strongest instrumentals in this game, to the point where even those against Light Island would agree. Look, Light Island isn't my favorite island, but I'm willing to recognize that even with its weaknesses, it has its strengths. I debate between high B and low A tier, but upon my analysis, I'm settling with the latter. Good job, Light Island. Magical Sanctum is the culmination of the previous 4 magical islands. Not literally, of course, but it does house all 4 magical elements: Psychic, Fairy, Bone, and Light. And if there's any island that deserves the praise it's given, it's Magical Sanctum. It's soulful, it's eerie, it's tribal. It's unlike any other song of this game, but everything about it works. There's not a bad monster here. Each one of them complements the song in some way. Knucklehead and Zeister are the foundation of the song. Flores and Frondley complement each other wonderfully. Enchantling and Rorik are powerful together. And Carolong is the cherry on top. That's just under half of the monsters on this island, and each one of them is crucial to the final song. The fact that I was even able to narrow down 7 standouts is a miracle, because every other monster is just as necessary. I didn't even mention how beautiful the Crescendo Moon event is. I love this island, and I love its song. Safe to say, we've got our first S rank of the video. Seasonal Shanty is strange. I think that it was pretty obvious from this island's release that the seasonal monsters weren't initially made to have an island of their own. Not only are they based on completely different seasons, but all 6 of them are vocalists, with Yule being a slight exception. Additionally, the bass, which comes from each island's respective castle, holds the spotlight in the song more than it has on any other island, causing the song to sound completely barren without it. Although, I can't deny that this is the best the castle bass has ever sounded. With the new seasonal monsters that would have been added, the song would improve, but only so much. I love these new seasonals, but after they were added to their respective islands, they wound up sounding a lot weaker on Seasonal Shanty. Of course, they're still good additions to the song, and monsters such as Yule and Gobligord received massive improvements on Seasonal Shanty compared to their home islands. But at the same time, Seasonal Shanty suffers from simultaneously being a bit too crowded and a bit too empty at times. If you want an example of my preferred rendition of Seasonal Shanty, I'd highly recommend this remix by Mixmaster Corn. At the end of the day, I'd put Seasonal Shanty in B tier. Amber Island has had an incredibly interesting evolution. Starting off, this island sounded really promising. Come waves 2 and 3, and things were only getting better. And then there was wave 4. And 5. And 6. And 7. You get the idea. The island was being updated, but in the worst possible ways. The monsters either didn't sound good or didn't play enough. They had more verses than they knew what to do with, and the consistent lack of a castle base was jarring, to say the least. And this persisted wave after wave, with slight glimmers of hope before the inevitable, oh, they only played for 5 seconds again. But eventually, the island would be completed during the Echoes of Eco event. And apart from these 2 being loud as fuck, Amber Island turned out pretty nice. This island's song is the second longest in the series, which makes sense given that there are 31 fire monsters and a seasonal to balance out. However, I can't say that this island does the best job at balancing everyone out. Monsters such as Stog, Wollaby, and Snizer are known for playing prominent roles in whichever island they're on. So, when these monsters are only delegated to a few verses while Ziggurat plays for over half the song, it's kind of insane. I'm not saying that the foundation of every island has to rely on the same monsters, but nearly every verse still has room for another addition. Why do you think so many fans have tried rearranging Amber Island? Including myself. Well, it's because these monsters are so much more than who they are on Amber Island, and I'd want nothing more than to hear them at their highest potential. I know I've been complaining for a while, but I do enjoy listening to Amber Island. It's got a really good song, and considering how far it's come, I'd say that the monster handlers knew what they were doing with it. There will always be room for improvement, sure, but at least Amber Island doesn't sound bad. A tier. Dude, Mythical Island is so good. From the beginning, I knew that this island was going to be a banger. But I held my tongue a bit because that's the exact way I felt about Amber Island. However, with the exception of Anglo's edition being a bit underwhelming, Mythical Island went out on a high note because goddamn are Bazinga and Nerve wonderful inclusions. Still, I don't want to give them all the credit, because every other monster on Mythical Island goes off. I could list them, but I don't want to make it seem like they're so much better than any other monsters. If there's any problem that I have with Mythical Island, it's that the transition between the loudest chorus and the calm part of the song is, well, non-existent. I did alleviate this in my rendition of Mythical Island, which you should totally watch if you're curious to hear what that transition could have sounded like. But apart from that, I have little to no complaints. Mythical Island is an S-tier island, and I can't wait to see how they top it next. But wait, doesn't that leave?
All that glitters is gold.
Do you remember when I said that I'd be ranking these islands in release order? Well, this island and another one that I'll get to later are the only exceptions. Gold Island was released alongside Earth Island, and was designed to be the game's final island back in 2012. As such, Gold Island houses every natural monster, 5 seasonals, both common and rare Wubboxes, and Sugarbush. Well, that aged well. And on the topic of Sugarbush, Gold Island was the first song whose song is based on an existing one. That song in particular being Johann Pachelbel's Canon in D. So, how does an island with 38 unique monsters, 40 now, fare in remixing a classical song? Well, alright, cut the build up. Gold Island is one of my favorite islands in the game. The song has such a celebratory feel to it, but at the same time, it's melancholic and emotional. Well, as melancholic and emotional as a song in My Singing Monsters can get. Every monster has a part to play, whether big or small, and I always enjoy balancing my favorite ones in an effort to make the song sound more powerful. There are certainly standouts, too many to name, but I couldn't imagine Gold Island without Quibble, Bogart, T-Rox, Shellbeat, Chorister, Sugarbush, Hula, and Smoochel to name a few. I do have my gripes with Gold Island. Despite being slightly larger than Amber, Gold Island limits itself to under 2 minutes to balance out all of these monsters. And while it does a fine job at that, the clutter becomes a little apparent sometime. There's also some weaker monsters, specifically Shrub, Drumpler, Pango, and Scups. And additionally, a couple monsters really could have used a second take. But these flaws are either not that big a deal, or are drowned out by the rest of the song. Hey guys, post 4.0 update Alex here. I was not expecting Gold Island Epic Wubbox or Jamboree, but what did they add and how did they change the song? Well, Epic Wubbox is a definite standout. However, I'm not the biggest fan of how it extended the song, especially when this middle section sounded complete as is. As for Jamboree, it's a fine seasonal, but its sync can use some work. What more can I say? I love Gold Island, both for its song and what it stands for. And I consider Gold Island one of this game's earliest victories. S tier. But with that, we've gone over every island in the main game. There are only 6 more islands to go, all of which come from the game's prequel, My Singing Monsters: Dawn of Fire. We already saw glimpses of the fire monsters in the main game, but it's finally time to see where it all began. I'll be starting from this game's outer islands before culminating with the biggest island in the entire series. Let's head on over to... Party Island is the second most polarizing island in the My Singing Monsters series. In fact, this was the second island featured in my post about Light Island, so I got a healthy amount of criticism. To summarize, Party Island doesn't sound like a party, due to the song being calm, repetitive, and long. Fans also have a problem with monsters reciting English sentences, and certain monsters being underutilized on Party Island compared to other islands. On the other hand, positive feedback is far and few between. Some fans enjoy Party Island's laid-back vibe, tying the party in Party Island closer to a social gathering or an intimate get-together. People also believe that Party Island's simplicity works in its favor. However, I'm gonna have to side with the former. While I don't think Party Island is bad, it's not good either. For one, it's really long for how little variety there is in its verses. I'm not even kidding, you can chalk the entire song down to Mammoth verse, Chorister verse, Mammoth verse, Chorister verse, Mammoth verse, Ma verse, Chorister verse. This is such a shame too because Party Island has a solid selection of monsters. But in the 2 years that 6 new monsters were added to Party Island, I'd argue that only 3 are not just audible, but add to the song in a meaningful way. Most of these new monsters only exist to complement another monster, but that does nothing to improve the main melody. It's like they're comforting each other for there being a hole in the wall while not actively fixing the hole in the wall. There's already 17 monsters on Party Island, and unless the song gets cut shorter or one of these upcoming monsters adds something entirely different to the melody, there's no saving this song. Again, it's not bad, but I'd rather listen to any other song on this list. Do you know why people don't just pass off Party Island as your standard C-tier island? Because Space Island is one of the islands that preceded it. Simply put, Space Island is astronomical. The opening to the first chorus is masterfully composed, and I'd argue that Space Island may be one of the best composed islands in the series. The use of the more subtle monsters such as Pummel, Snizer, Tring, and Clamble are excellent. And don't even get me started on the breakdown at the end. It rivals the chorus as the best part of the song. Why don't people talk about it more? Now, this song isn't flawless. Even though they were included from the start, I can't help but feel that Space Island started the trend of Flower and Pom Pom being shoehorned into islands they aren't needed on. Also, Space Island shares a flaw that Party Island has, in that there's not enough variety in these verses to justify them playing 3 separate times. I love the pre-chorus and the chorus, but I'd either cut them down to playing twice, or just giving different monsters within these verses the spotlight. And as for my final gripe, this part really could have used Drumpler. Outside of that, Space Island is one of the best islands in Dawn of Fire. I'd put it in S tier, but there's so much competition for the best island in Dawn of Fire that I'm just gonna hold back for now. Considering how highly Space Island and the island after this one are regarded, Cloud Island is sort of the awkward middle child in between them. Which is a bit of a shame because I think Cloud Island is wonderful. This is the first time that My Singing Monsters has experimented with a calm track, but as the island evolved, so did the energy. Seriously, without Shellbeat and Riedling, there's an immediate tonal shift. Almost as much as Amber Island without Ziggurat. Still, you can play around with this island to your liking. Cloud Island's biggest drawback is in its volume distribution. Shellbeat, Riedling, and Krillby are perfect examples of this, as they're so much louder or quieter than the monsters they're supposed to complement. But outside of that, Cloud Island features a lot of monsters at their best. Consistently good monsters like Woolabee, Shellbeat, and Riedling go without saying. But I love Octopus, Flumox, Dandydoo, Fangler, Boscus, and especially Pom Pom. There's something so infectious about Pom Pom on this island, and I'd argue that this is the perfect way to implement them in a song. Also, that bridge with Octopus and Dandydoo is such a vibe. To me, Cloud Island is just a better executed Fire Oasis in terms of its energy, and that's 100% deserving of a high A tier. I have little words to describe how phenomenal Cave Island is, to the point where I might as well just play it to show you where I'm coming from. Cave Island is the best of the 4 outer islands in Dawn of Fire. It's also arguably the most unique song in the series, which makes the risk factor in composing a song like this so worth it in the end. My one and only complaint is that I think Pong Ping sort of clashes with the vocalists, and hearing it in the chorus kinda takes me out of it. But apart from that, I believe every other monster works. Yes, even Wink. Wink peaked on Cave Island and has not recovered since. And damn, I'm really running out of words to say. Everything from the vocals to the instruments just come together to create an extraordinary song. As much as breeding is a necessary component to a My Singing Monsters game, I do enjoy how Dawn of Fire picks and chooses specific monsters to add to a song. And in Cave Island's case, the choices were perfect. Remember all those complaints I gave towards Celestial Island? Well, I didn't give them just because I felt that Celestial Island was a C-tier song. The reason I had those complaints to begin with was because Celestial Island had to live up to this island, Starhenge. Starhenge encompasses all 12 Celestials, who, in Dawn of Fire, are ancient beings considered to be the first monsters of the monster world. Thankfully, that title is well reflected in this island song, because damn is Starhenge good. For starters, the Celestials sound so much better than they do here than on Celestial Island, especially Plixie and Galvana. And no, the fact that they were babies is not an excuse. Starhenge also works so much better as a song. Starhenge feels short and sweet, despite being longer in song length, while Celestial Island is constantly building up and releasing. Certain monsters were also done so dirty on Celestial Island. Skaratar, Blossom, and Galvana are essential to Starhenge, but they play so little on Celestial. And in Galvana's case, her voice is so much more piercing. If it wasn't obvious by now, I love Starhenge. Like Cave Island, it's such a unique song that I couldn't define a genre for. But its uniqueness makes it so much more memorable. The continent is the biggest island in the My Singing Monsters series, and houses all 5 natural elements alongside the element of fire. The continent is technically the first island in Dawn of Fire, but with its size and song length, I thought it'd be worth saving for last. What could I say about the continent? Well, every monster is a baby, which is why I didn't excuse Celestial Island for being as average as it is, because the continent is the best song in the My Singing Monsters series. In an island with 58 total monsters as of this video's release, how do they make an island where every monster is a welcome addition to the song? I don't think there's a single monster that sounds bad. I can acknowledge that there are weak monsters, but even then, weaker monsters fade comfortably in the background as the more prominent ones play. The continent also has so many verses, all of which vary from one another while fitting in with the song and building up to the end. The build up to the bridge in the middle and the outro before the end are the most powerful verses in the song. And can we talk about that outro? continent really is an adventure from start to finish. It encompasses what I love the most about Amber and Gold Island. But whereas Amber plays within its element and Gold plays within its theme, the continent found a way to balance its elements and its theme in perfect harmony. No other island in the series has been able to strike that balance. And as cool as it would be to see them try again, I think that makes the continent all the more special. This island and its song will forever be S tier. And there you have it. This is my definitive My Singing Monsters Island tier list. I hope that for those that know nothing about My Singing Monsters, found this ranking interesting. And for fans of the series, that my opinions didn't piss you off too much. This will probably wind up being a longer video, not as long as my Cookie Run series, but I hope I've improved my commentary style a lot since then. And yeah, thank you for sticking through this video all the way. I hope this was a good one, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next upload. Peace. Oh, and happy 11th anniversary, My Singing Monsters.
No!